What victim ended up being the bad guy after more information came out? Mick Philpott. He wanted to show that his ex was violent and dangerous to their children, and he wanted to play the hero. He devised a plan to set alight to his family home and he would rescue the children. Unfortunately, the fire took hold faster than he anticipated and all 6 of his children died. He then played the victim on TV shows and news until they discovered that he set the fire. In 1864, a train pulled into London carrying a bloodied unconscious man, Franz Muller. Police were alerted, and when the man came to Muller told them as they were riding, 2 men approached him and tried to rob him. However, Mr. Muller fought back, was shot, and then left behind as the robbers jumped off the train. What actually happened was Franz Muller attacked a Mr. Thomas Briggs, a 69-year-old banker, and robbed him of his gold chain and pocket watch. Later in the day, Mr. Briggs would be found unconscious lying on the tracks because Muller shot him and threw Briggs off the train. Briggs would soon pass away from his injuries. Police were super suspicious, and then a pawn shop owner came forward identifying Muller as selling him Briggs' gold chain. London police issued a warrant, however Muller had already fled the hospital and boarded a sail ship for New York. Scotland Yard inspectors took a steamship to NY, beating Muller by weeks. They and an entire crowd of people were waiting at the docks when Muller arrived. And that's the story of the first murder on a train. There's a cool book about it. Mr. Briggs' Hat. Corey Harris. He's the guy who went viral earlier this year for showing up at a Zoom court hearing driving while on suspended license. He spent 2 days in jail. Then it was reported that Harris should have had his license reinstated 2 years prior. Harris's attorney sets up interviews with local TV stations stating his innocence. Good Morning America does a piece on Harris and lectures the viewer to not judge a book by its cover. Harris goes back to court. The judge does his homework and discovers Harris has never had a license in Michigan or any other state, yet has been to Secretary of State office multiple times to renew his ID. The opportunity was there for him to get a license. He chose not to. He goes viral again, but because he lied and embarrassed so many people along the way. Karen Matthews faked her daughter's kidnapping not long after Madeleine McCann went missing so that she could get money. She hid her inside a bed at a friend's house and planned to collect the reward money. People actually felt sorry for her, thinking her daughter was missing, and it was a huge police investigation. Ended up in jail for kidnapping, perverting the course of justice, and false imprisonment. Dave Krupa had been dating casually after his 12-year relationship ended and ended up meeting a woman named Carrie Farver. They hit it off instantly and spent a lot of time together over the next few weeks. This was until Carrie texted Dave at work and asked if they could move in together. This was a shock to Dave and he said no. Carrie then sent a super nasty response and basically told him to fuck off. Dave then started getting bombarded with texts and emails from Carrie. The harassment, already relentless and almost daily, started to expand to include other people in Dave's life, like his recent ex, girlfriend Liz Gollier. Liz became a constant target of Carrie's stalking and harassment. Things escalated. At one point, Liz's house burned down. I suggest looking up this case for the full details because there's so much more to this story. As it turned out, Liz had killed Carrie, ostensibly out of jealousy of Carrie's quickly growing relationship with Dave. Liz then began impersonating Carrie and sending messages pretending to be Carrie. That's right, Liz was the one behind all those messages. The whole story is absolutely wild. I suggest checking out the book, A Tangled Web, by Leslie Rule for the full story. It's absolutely nuts. I just listened to a podcast about a girl, Mackenzie Sharilla. Basically she Her boyfriend and another friend were involved in a crash that killed the boyfriend and the friend. She was a driver and she survived. At first it seemed like maybe there was some fault in the car or that she simply lost control of the vehicle. But as the investigation went on, they realized she planned the crash and ran into that wall on purpose. It was a crazy listen. Brittany Norwood, a former soccer star that worked at a Lululemon athletic clothing store in an upscale wealthy neighborhood, she had worked the night shift with her manager and both were the victim of a brutal robbery, murder. A co-worker arrived at the Lululemon store the next morning, discovered the scene and contacted the police. The manager, Jana Murray, was brutally murdered and stabbed over 60+ times. Norwood suffered minimal injuries. Her pants ripped and she was tied up. Norwood claimed an African American man first killed Murray, then approached Norwood, ripped her pants apart and raped her. The police initially believed Norwood's story and sent her home. During the investigation, the police came across text messages of manager Jana Murray discovering Norwood had been stealing merchandise and she was going to confront her about the theft, then fire her. The police soon made Norwood a suspect, especially after discovering Murray's car, with Norwood's blood inside, was parked 3 blocks away from the store. Norwood claimed the robber told her to move the car, then walk back to the store, or they will kill her. The police believed this was absurd. She would be allowed to leave, then return after being allowed to leave. She was arrested, charged with murder, convicted and sentenced to life without parole. It was later revealed at her trial the entire murder was overheard by several people who did not intervene. An Apple Store employee overheard women fighting and assumed it was just drama. Source: https en.wikipedia.org/wiki/lululemon_murder. https en.wikipedia.org/wiki/lululemon_murder. Edit: ~~ a Radio Shack ~~ correction. An Apple Store. https en.wikipedia.org/wiki/Alicia_Estiv_head. Alicia Estiv Head is a Spanish businesswoman who claimed to be a survivor of the attacks on the World Trade Center on September 11, 2001. Under the name Tanya Head, she joined the World Trade Center Survivors Network support group, later becoming its president. Her name was regularly mentioned in media reports of the attacks. In 2007, it was revealed Head's story was a hoax. She was not in New York City on September 11, 2001, but in reality was attending classes in her native city, Barcelona. What would you do if you had $50 million today? You would never see me again, that's for sure. Buy my company through a shell corporation just to fire my boss in person so he has no idea what's coming. Turn off my alarm. More than likely never set one ever again. Celebrate with 2 Costco hot dogs and a rotisserie chicken. Buy land and build an amazing house. Be much less worried. Invest $45 million or so into my portfolio. Get that locked in and producing income. I will now be able to simply live off that income directly. After taxes, income should be more than enough each year. With the $5 million I kept cash, I buy a home and move in ASAP. Either find the dream property and ready to move in option, or I buy a starter home for the short term and put the money instead towards finding the dream property and building my home from the design process onward. Fill home with my stuff, other furnishings and decor. Probably buy a couple new vehicles. Retire from work. Get that all situated. Enjoy my life and pursue my goals now that I have independent wealth. Sleep for a week. What's the most useless thing you still have memorized? P. Sherman 42 Wallaby Way, Sydney. Medium 17 medium cause the tea, coffee, hot chocolate machine at work to Give a free vend. Was very helpful when I was out of money toward the end of the month. I lived off of hot chocolate at work. This was for a job I left in 1997. XKY4K2NRWR-8F6P2-448RF Cry QH one time in college. I had to install Windows 8.1 multiple times throughout the course of a week. I had to type this product key so many times it was easier to memorize it. I transferred from Los Angeles. Your school has no gymnastics team. This is a last resort. There are more plastic flamingos in the world than there are real ones. The Big Mac song. 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. I still remember our telephone number back in the 90s. My bologna has a first name. It's Oscar. My bologna has a second name. It's Mayer. Oh, I love to eat it every day. And if you ask me why, I'll say, 'cause Oscar Mayer has a way with bologna. What's something that still hasn't returned to normal since the pandemic? I don't know about y'all, but the sense of time is messed up. It's like 4 years of my timeline is missing. Walmart being 24 hours. Cost of living. Customer service companies still not providing easy contact. Blaming COVID for being understaffed, etc. Children. A lot of kids fell seriously behind in their studies. Early years kids spent more time at home with parents when they would normally be socializing with other kids. Younger and especially mentally ill children really had a problem getting out of and back into the school routine. Removed. Tipping culture. Paired with cost of living increase. I'm now being asked to tip at the movie theater ticket counter. Accurate opening times on Google Maps. And blowing out candles on a cake.